Now, back to our diagram, let's figure out where we are. So we did row plays, so I can check off that bird. What's left? Well, now I want to be able to do all the plays in all the rows and all the columns. Another thing I want to be able to do is, notice that I cheated a little bit. I engaged in wishful thinking, which is always a good design strategy, in that when I called row plays, I gave it a hand in a row, but I made the row myself. Built that sample row that I called a row by making a list and saying, okay, I know A is here, I know an anchor called MNX is here, and so on. I didn't have my program construct that row. All plays is going to have to somehow do that type of construction. It's going to somehow have to set the anchors within the row rather than having me give them explicitly as a test. And then just one more thing to deal with, which is scoring. So after I've got all the plays, I want to be able to figure out how much each one scores and pick out the top scoring play. So I talked about pacing at the beginning of this. Now I'm starting to pick up the pace. So I'm feeling pretty good now. I'm saying it was a long way, we had to run hard, but now I can start to see the finish line. So we can put together one final sprint to get it all done. So what do I want to do next? I want to handle complete boards, not just individual rows. So just as we did with rows, where we made up a sample row, let's make a sample board. So I define a function, a board, which returns a sample board. It's the same one we were dealing with here. Note that I'm making this a function rather than a variable definition. And the reason I'm doing this is because every time I reference a board, I want to create a new one. And I want to create a new one because I'm going to be modifying the old one. I'm going to be placing letters onto the board. I'm going to be inserting anchors into the board and modifying the board structure itself. I don't want to be dealing with the old one that I've already modified. I want to make sure I have a fresh one from scratch. And so I'm going to say the only way to access this is through the function. So what it does is it takes these strings, maps list over each one. So rather than have this first row be a string, the first row will be then a list of characters. Same for all the other rows. And there we can see when we call a board, we get this board, but that's not very pretty to look at. I'd rather look at something like this, where here I printed the results. Notice that I put spaces between each letter to make the board more square-like. And so what I'd like you to do is define a function show, which takes a board as input, prints out the results looking just like that, returns none as a value.